Noswaith, good evening. Croeso, welcome to the second revision session this evening. The session in English, we've already had the session in Welsh at 5:30. So this is the session in English for parents and pupils of year 10, 11, 12 and 13 at Bro Edern. And we will be discussing exams and exam revision techniques with you as parents, families and with the pupils themselves. So this is Miss James, if you haven't already worked that out. Kerry Anwen James speaking here. I'm an assistant head at Bro Edern. I have responsibility for teaching and learning in school, so I'm going to be doing the session with you this evening. There is a Q&A function on your device. You should be able to access a Q&A. I would like somebody to let me know, A, can you see the screen, which has lots of doors on it, and can you hear me properly, so that I know that everything is working before I carry on going. So I can see there are lots of people in the call. So thank you very much for joining us this evening for this session on exams and facing exams and the best way for your children to be able to prepare how to face exams. So just waiting for some messages to arrive now in the Q&A, just to check that you can all hear loud and clear and that you can see the screen, which should be a grey wall with lots of doors. So I hope you're all okay this evening. We'll be starting at 6:15, so in 2 minutes. Aha, the messages are starting to arrive. Just have a look here now. All good. That is the perfect answer. Rydw i'n gallu gweld a chlywed chi. Diolch yn fawr iawn am y neges yn Gymraeg. So mae'r sesiwn yn Gymraeg wedi bod am hanner awr wedi 5. So'r sesiwn yn Saesneg yw hwn. Fi'n flin os chi wedi methu'r sesiwn yn Gymraeg. So this is the English language session this evening. The Welsh language session has been. So I'm sorry if you've missed the Welsh language. Yeah, all great. That's brilliant. That's a relief, because this technology, when we were online all day, every day, we just got into the swing, but I haven't used the technology for a little while and it's all new again. So diolch yn fawr iawn. So yes, a couple of messages coming through. So we just wait a minute or two to 6:15 and then we will start. So as long as you can hear clearly and that you can see the screen. The other thing is that, what was I going to say? Yeah, there is a Q&A function. It's not just for you to say that you can hear me. If you do have any questions, please pop them. Yeah, good. You can even hear and see on the phone. Yeah, on the phone, some of the writing on the slides may be quite small, but I will narrate it. So hopefully, Mrs. Davis, you will be able to hear that. You'll be able to see that clearly through my descriptions. Yeah, so great. So people are using different types of technology to access the meeting. As I said, the Q&A is here for you to send any questions. I'll concentrate on my presentation and then I'll address all the questions then at the end. I've just done the Welsh language session. It was just less than half an hour. So I'm not going to keep you long. I'm sure you need to get on with your evening, have supper. I also need to go home and eat because I still haven't managed to have lunch today, but there we are. What's new? All right. Now this happened in the Welsh language session as well. The light has gone off here now because yeah, because I'm sitting still. The light goes off every now and then because the sensors are not moving. Will the session be recorded and shared after the event? Yeah, I do think I have pressed the button to record the session. So that should be happening automatically, I hope. But definitely the slides can be shared as well. Yeah, so I think... Aha, excellent. Okay, I understand, Mrs. Davis. That's all fine. Great. Okay, 17 minutes past. Everybody, I think, who wants to join us is now here. There are 58 of you online, so that's great. Some people have heard this last year, so they haven't returned because they hopefully can remember what I explained then. Felly, off we go. The first thing here is that you need to be really organised, especially if you're sitting GCSEs. You've got a lot of subjects to juggle. With A-level, you have the density of information in fewer subjects, but also you still need to be organised. So that means organised with your time, but there are other things. So pupils need an exam pencil case. There is such a thing. It didn't exist when we were in school. It has to be see-through so that we can see, or the invigilators can see what's in there at any point. So it looks something like the photo. Also really important, pwysig, cyfrifiannell, calculator, a pair of compasses, apparently they're plural, and an onglydd. That's the half circle. I think that's called a protractor, I think, in English. So you know, you can look at the photo. It still stumps us as to how many pupils turn up to maths exams or geography exams, science exams without these things. So it's really important, but also not to buy them the day before. They need to practice using them and using their own, because they're all slightly different. And that is really, really important. The other thing with getting organised with stationery and things, for some pupils, colour and things is really important. So different coloured pens can really help, and doing diagrams and you know, post-it notes, all that sort of thing to create a quote wall. When I did GCSEs, I had all my important like maths formula and various verbs and things on the wall, you know, in my bedroom next to the bed. So whatever works for your children, that's maybe what they need to go with. Also getting organised. I think it's really important that you as a family know what's on. So this is a blackboard in a friend's kitchen. She put it on Facebook and I asked for permission to copy it. So this is her child doing GCSEs, and they had this in the kitchen, so they knew exactly when the exams were they AM, PM. You can see the times being noted in there. Then some of the exams with the diagonal lines are 2 exams on the same day. So I think it's really handy for you as parents to know exactly what's happening, what your child is facing. You can see there where the heavy weeks are. And the heavy days, etc. And then, you know, the pleasure of you as a family then crossing them off together as the exams go on. So the reason why we're holding the session this evening is because, you know, of this sort of thing. This is an example from a teacher. It was on Twitter a few years ago when I compiled this presentation for the first time. Year 11 homework. This is obviously could be year 10, year 12, year 13. Revise, just revise. And, you know, is it too much? Yes, it is too much to expect pupils who are 15, 16, 17 just to know what they need to do, how to do it effectively. I think everybody knows they need to revise, but how do they do this effectively? And also, can they self-organise without any guidance? So the whole point of this this evening is to give you, maybe as parents, and sort of an insight of what your child is going to be facing and sort of different ideas of what they could do. I've got a couple of slides now about maths. So maths is a practical subject. You think of practical subjects such as PE or DT or drama or music, you know. But maths is also a practical subject, and the maths department are really keen to let you know that the only way you can improve your maths is by practicing it and practicing old, you know, past papers and old questions and exercises in revision guides and things, working them out, working through the problems, working them out, checking answers. Also, the last the point there is that you need to give yourself a time you know, a particular amount of time. You haven't got all day, and then that is really, really important. I'm taking you now to YouTube to a channel called Adolygu Mathemateg. Your children will be familiar with this if they are in year 10 and 11. sitting maths. Also, there's loads of A-level stuff on there. It's a teacher from Ysgol y Creuddyn in North Wales. He's called Dr. Gareth Evans, and he's really done us all a favour with all these videos. Just that your children need to know there are different codes here. So that's the number of the video. And then the first letters tell us, is it rhifedd, which is the numeracy exams, or M, mathematic? So if your child is in year 10, they would be sitting numeracy, which is rhifedd, in November. If they are in year 11, they are going to be sitting maths this summer. So those video codes tell you which videos are relevant to which qualifications, because there are two different distinct maths qualifications, and that will help you ensure that your child is revising the correct things. For example, they've done, if they're in year 11, they've already done numeracy in November, and now they will be doing maths in the summer. Some pupils will be resitting numeracy, so they need to know the difference between, on this day is this exam, so this is what I need to revise for this maths exam, and this qualification is different. So, and the second letter here after the / is the tier. So S, the children will know all this, is sylfaenol, that is the foundation tier. Canolradd is the middle tier, and uwch is the higher tier. So they need to know exactly what tier they're going to be sitting, also what qualification. Are they revising for maths or are they revising for numeracy? And then ensure that they then revise for the correct thing on the correct day. So those are some specifics for maths. I'm sure that some parents would be glad to know those things. So what is revision? Beth yw adolygu? It's a good question. I'm sure when we say to some of the pupils, right, adolygu, revision, and you need to revise, I'm sure their brain looks something like this, thinking, what on earth do I need to do? So a good old German called Hermann Ebbinghaus created this forgetting curve sometime in the 19th century. And you can see here, it's something that stayed with us. At the point where you learn something for the first time, so immediately you know 100% of it. But after 20 minutes, your memory of that, or how much detail you remember, is down to 58%. In an hour, it's down to 44%. And then after a day, you're down to 33%. So this is a really, really important, because if your child decides that they're going to revise and cram everything the day before the exam, the following day, they are only going to remember 33% of what they revised. So that is very, very important as a diagram and as data for you of, you know, if you're going to do it last minute, you are going to be the free fall in that curve is really, really dramatic of the information retained, you know, the first time you do it, and in those initial minutes and hours and days, you know, the free fall is huge. So what we need to encourage our pupils to do is to revise regularly and to space that out and not to do it last minute. And we will come back to that now with a diagram that I will show you. So if you revisit the information, okay, the original learning, it'll go all the way down, and then you review it and it'll go down slower, and then you review it again, and the curve here, you will retain it longer every time you then review it. You can see the third review, it's common sense really, I'm sure, but you know, the third review then, it will really, really help you to ensure that that free fall doesn't really happen. I'm going to slide down to here. This is a diagram we saw a few years ago. Kate Jones, is a teacher from North Wales originally, and this is really, really good, I think, as a visual for parents. It's a lot of different elements put together that will ensure success for your child. So the spaced practice is the green column here. The spaced practice is the fact that you need to space it out and not just do it once the day before, you just need to space it over a longer period of time. Then a retrieval practice. So we'll discuss this in depth. Kate Jones has written quite a few books on retrieval practice. It's the fact that you need to retrieve the information from your brain. So lots of pupils will sit down and will just read through their notes. They'll just read through them. They'll just sit there colouring stuff in with highlighter pens, and that's really passive. It's reading it. It's just stuffing information into your head. But what you really need to be able to do is active revision. You need to pull that information out of your brain and see how much you remember. Now, sitting back and highlighting and reading through is really chilled. Pupils really enjoy it, but it's really ineffective for revision. Retrieval practice is that you read over your notes. For example, if you need to, revise something for geography and there's different points about rainforests or I don't know, earthquakes, you read through it and then you close your book and you give yourself a blank piece of paper and then you write out everything you remember about that aspect of the work. And, facing a blank piece of paper is scary, but it forces you then to remember when you're sitting there just reading over and highlighting, you're just in your comfort zone, really. You haven't left the information. You're not faced with a blank piece of paper. You're not faced with a challenging scenario. What you need to do, though, is to put that strain on your brain with that blank piece of paper and force yourself to try and remember it. And that is the retrieval practice that we'll mention a few times, where you are retrieving that information and checking how much of that your brain can remember. The mindset is something that comes from school, that we can help with that, put them in a positive mindset, help them along, but also you as parents have a really important role to do here, making sure that your child is happy and fed and they arrive in school on time. I've been really baffled over the mock period. Lots of children arrived in school after the exam had started in the morning. You can imagine that at driving, they're looking at the speedometer, looking at all the red lights here in the east of Cardiff. That is not the best way to start an exam. There is traffic in the east of Cardiff. It is awful. It is cold. You need to make sure that you leave plenty of time, because obviously with external exams in the summer, there are set times that we have to start them because everybody in Wales has to start the exams at the same time. And it does give your child massive problems if they're not in school in time for their exam. And then they can start an exam with a positive mindset, knowing that they've had breakfast and they're ready to go. They've got all their equipment with them, ready to go. And support is the next thing in the purple column. Support comes from us as a school and also from yourselves as parents. And we try our best here at Bro Eden to support our pupils in every way that we can. The navy blue column then is attendance. Now, I can't stress enough to you how important it is that your children are in school. We can help them if they're in school. We can teach them if they're in school. But if they're not in school, that makes things very difficult for us and for them. So at the moment, in year 11, there are speaking exams in English all this week. I've spoken to Miss Morris. Some children have been absent. These are group assessments. It means if they're absent, it means nobody in the group can then do the assessment. So I'm sure tonight, I'm preaching to the converted, I'm sure, here this evening, but attendance is really important. Last week, there were science practical exams. They all count also for the summer. This week's English exams also count. there'd been maths exams, the mocks were really important just before Christmas, and you know, every week now there will be something really, really important happening. Everything now is geared towards the exams in every lesson. You know, we don't want your children missing out. It is really, if they are very ill, if they are throwing up, if they have diarrhea, obviously they cannot come to school. But if it's a bit of a sniffle, or if they just think that they'd rather stay in bed, then you really need to put pressure on them to come to school. Because once they're here, we are happy to see them and we can help them. So in the top row, all those elements in place, then we lead to success. And then with the other rows, with one component part missing, it does lead to various things. So at the bottom here, you can see if spaced practice doesn't happen, then you're going to be cramming last minute. You know, if you don't use retrieval practice and just sit there reading over your notes, oh, they're really busy. She spends about 3 hours every night reading her notes, say parents every year. But it's a really ineffective way of doing things, and you can see that there. Mindset is not there, underperformance. If there's no support, it can lead to anxiety. And obviously with the attendance, you know, there is a direct correlation between attendance in school and results. Mr. Voiles used to send out some graphs that so many days in a year used to lead to 1 grade lower at GCSE and things like that. So this information has come centrally from government and, you know, based on facts and figures. Okie dokie. Damien Benny is the author of this series of tweets that I picked up off Twitter a few years ago. And I still use them because they are really great. He was the deputy at the time. He's now the head in Penrheol in Swansea, and has done lots of research into sort of how children learn and different effects of spacing and retrieval practice and things. So he questioned a pupil who did really well in Penrheol called Caitlin and how she revised. And this is what Damien Benny then has written up as a result. So this could be GCSE, which is what Caitlin was doing, but I think it's also relevant for year 12 doing AS exams, and year 13, you know, is relevant to anybody facing exams. So obviously the volume of exams in GCSE is the thing, but obviously you've got the same amount of work with A levels because you've got the depth and far more topics to learn. So Caitlin started revising in February half term. This is the reason we're doing this presentation this evening and getting parents together so that you are clear that despite the fact that the exams are in May, that pupils, it needs to be a long distance race, really, not a sprint at the end. They need to plan very early to ensure that this is going to be covered, as we've just seen in that previous diagram. Obviously, we don't want pupils writing off their February half-term holidays. The number of hours they spent at the beginning was going to be smaller, and they just build it up as you get closer to the exams. And then a month before the exams, she would revise 2 to 3 hours after school and up to 6 hours on a weekend. Now, everybody is different. These are just facts about one pupil, but I do think that they are quite interesting facts. And, you know, pupils across Wales would have been competing with Caitlin for the best grades, and this was her plan. And this is really important here. Early on in the revision, that she spent her time building up her knowledge, building up the background knowledge, not doing exam questions. There are only so many exam questions, and then once you've used them all, they're gone. So you don't want to waste the exam questions until you've actually learned the stuff, and then use the questions at the end and real papers once you have done that revision. There's no point doing an exam paper and then leaving about half the questions out. So pupils need to focus at the beginning of building up their knowledge in every aspect of a course and then using papers afterwards. Caitlin, then point number 5, didn't spend an equal amount of time on each subject. It depended on when she'd finished the course in school, how much revision she'd done in class, and she spent a long time improving her areas of weakness. Now, there's nothing more fun, and I know this myself, that you sit there revising stuff you already know. And what you avoid is the things that you don't quite understand, you don't quite enjoy, but obviously that is also an effective way of dealing with things. So she was flexible with her timetable, you can see in point number 6, and she would change it. If something was covered in school, she would then either not do that at home, or she would double up at home, carry on from the work in school, and really nail the whole topic with the continuation from school to homework and revision at home. So she was very specific, not just revising an hour of history and then an hour of English, but decide on certain topics. So in history, maybe they need to revise the Weimar Republic or South Africa, or, you know, Nazi Germany, or whatever they are revising, specific topics, not just I'm going to revise history, just break it down and decide, right, this is the aspect of work I'm going to do today, the laws in South Africa during apartheid and the dates. I'm going to learn these now in one go, and then I'm going to carry on going until I've finished, rather than say I'm going to revise the whole of the history course. Just break it down, and then you can tick off South Africa and then move on to something else. And then she was really certain on what she needed to revise. Now, if you have children who have done exams over the last few years, if you had a child who did exams last year, you would have known that some subtopics were taken out of subjects. For example, in modern languages, we have 18 themes, and they took 5 of them out last summer in 2 of the papers. Now, this year, from what we understand, everything's back in, so everything on the spec needs to be revised once again. And then while we're talking about WJC and what's happened recently, if you have a child who has done exams last summer, the grade boundaries were fairly generous last summer to compensate for everything that the pupils have been through during the pandemic. We are expecting that the grade boundaries this year are going to be back at 2018 and 2019 standard. So business as usual as far as the exam board is concerned. You know, you can disagree with this because these children have also been through a lot, and we agree, but this is a decision that is out of our hands. So if you know of children who have done really well over the last year, for example, you know, your child could have the same mark as them, but end up with a different grade because the grade boundaries are going to be different this summer, without a doubt. If you had a child who did exams in 2020 and 21, you would know that the exams were cancelled, and obviously they were teacher assessed grades that we had to then work out based on various criteria. So, you know, last year it was nearly business as usual with some elements taken out and the grade boundaries generous. We do expect this year that the children are going to be facing the music as they did in 2018 and 2019 pre-pandemic. So discussing earlier the fact that, you know, revising things you really understand is lots of fun, but really a bit silly. Caitlin used her lists of topics to work out what her strengths and weaknesses were, and then work out where she needed to spend more time working on her understanding. So she used Quizlet, which is a website that we use regularly across school. We use loads of it in modern languages. It's for learning vocabulary, learning concepts, learning definitions, and you can either as a pupil use those produced by your teachers. I've created about, I don't know, 500 of them in my career by now, but also pupils can create their own. They have an account and then they can create their own. So they would have links for these in the departmental Google Classrooms. and that is an effective way. The other thing is that you can get a Quizlet app on your phone, and then you can do it then on the go, on the bus, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and it all adds up, doesn't it, over a couple of months. And then Caitlin would pull her poor mother into this, ask her mother to nominate a random topic, and then she would retrieve and say everything she could remember. So this, once again, her mother would give her topic, and then she would have to force herself to try and remember, to retrieve that information, take herself out of that comfort zone and try to remember as much as possible, and also give timed tasks. Now we come back to this timing again. We do have pupils coming out of exams saying, I didn't finish the paper, and we need to try and avoid this. The pupils need to be really clear on, if you have a paper that is 60 marks and the paper lasts an hour, then it's a mark a minute. If you have an 8-mark question, 8 marks, 8 minutes, then you have to move on. If you have a paper that's out of 100 and it's 2 hours, then children need to do the maths really of working out, if it's a 10-mark question, this is how much time they should spend on it, because otherwise they're going to get to section B and they can have a 30-mark question or a 40-mark question and run out of time in those big questions where they would be able to gain loads of marks. At the beginning of papers, they tend to be the really smaller mark questions, 2 marks here, 3 marks, 4 marks maybe, and then bigger questions towards the end of the paper. That's really important. So here, giving herself time tasks, for example, in history, 10 minutes to write down everything she knew about the Catholic threat. This is the sort of thing, the timing of questions like this is really, really crucial, because some of our pupils think that they've got all day. And that, unfortunately, is not going to be the case. Some pupils are eligible for extra time, and they should factor this in as well. Some pupils have 25% extra. They need to be really clear about how much time they're going to have in an exam, and then, how much time they need to spend on each question and work that out. So retrieval practice, we've discussed this with a blank piece of paper, and forcing yourself to remember was her main method of revising. It doesn't need to be blank. You could say, earthquakes, 5 factors, and then you can give yourself 5 bullet points. Then, you then know that you need to retrieve 5 facts or different stages of things, but they're different ways of doing different subjects. She says Quizlet was much easier to set up than normal flashcards. I would totally agree. I'm an avid user of Quizlet over the years, and I would say that it is really, really good. Then when she started, she used the beginning of the revision time to build up the knowledge, ensure that she had plenty of background knowledge, and then closer to the exams, then she would use those past paper questions and use full exam practice. And that is really important. I remember when I did A-level Welsh, there was a 3-hour exam back in the day, and you had to do 4 questions. So they said the 4 questions are equal marks. So that common sense would say 3/4 of an hour per section in this 3-hour exam. But I did 1 mock, a 3-hour mock, and didn't finish the paper. And I worked out myself that if I didn't do section 1, which was a grammar question, in half an hour, then I wouldn't finish the rest of the paper. So that my focus was on getting my grammar knowledge up to a speedy point. And then section 1, half an hour, then had 2.5 hours to finish the rest of the paper, and then I knew I would get the paper done. But pupils need to really box clever on this sort of thing, doing whole papers, timing themselves and working things out for themselves. I worked that out for myself. I was thinking, like, grammatics, this is where I can gain the time. In the essays and stuff on the different elements of literature, I was thinking, I'm not going to be able to make up the time here. The grammar needs to be shifted in half an hour, and that's going to free me up, and that's what I did. And then she mentions GCSE pods. They're not available in Welsh. She'd watched 1,200 of them, which is great. But there are various things, you know, resources that, you know, our teachers are really good at putting stuff on Google Classroom. There are various things on YouTube. Maths is very, very well served on YouTube, for example. So, you know, there are resources there, and our teachers would be able to give your children advice on what to use. And the final point is, you know, don't put the achievements down to talent alone. So much of talent is hard work in disguise, and it's a massive, massive commitment that she's obviously worked out what she needs to do and sorted that all out. So I'm flicking here between the Welsh and English presentation, nearly done. So we've got like a little leaflet here. Some pupils have had them in the past about different strategies. There's a copy in English. So the different techniques: retrieval practice, I've mentioned lots of times, questioning and elaboration, writing yourself a little question and then elaborating on it and writing at length. Concrete examples are really important in things like geography and science, where you give maybe a theory, but then you give real examples in real life. Spaced practice we've mentioned as well, spacing it out. And if you look at the diagrams at the bottom, the blobs represent different aspects of work that need to be revised across the week. So don't do it all in all the same topic on the same day. Space it out over a long period of time. Interleaving also here, where you would look, I think R and J is Romeo and Juliet, and rivers and waves, and just, you know, not just saying English or geography or science, breaking it up. And then dual coding is where you use pictures and diagrams in order to enhance your learning. So if you're trying to remember stuff for geography and science and things like that, maybe creating diagrams, retrieving those as well could be really, really valuable. And then revision resources, you know, pupils are really lucky because we created so much online content during COVID, and that is now available for them. And, you know, their Google Classrooms are full of information that they will need or may or may not need. This is an example I used for my German class a few years ago before the oral exam. I just put different dates in the boxes and gave them little tasks to do every day. And I made it because I'd seen one on Twitter and I thought it looked pretty. But the children really enjoyed using it, especially the boys, and that really, really surprised me. I thought it was slightly patronising, but they thought it was great. Just little tasks, maybe everyone takes 5 minutes, but to spread it out over a period of time, different tasks on different days, just really small aspects. You know, go through all the questions of the role plays in the sample papers, make some notes, record yourself talking for 2 minutes, you know, and different things, practice past tense verbs. So just break it down, and you could do this for any subject really. If you've got a big test or an exam, just to break it down day by day. And then, yeah, really, that's it from me. It's exciting times, you know, troubling times, but, you know, real challenge ahead from our pupils, but they need to be organised. They have all the support in the world here at Broedan. We're here to support them every step of the way. So I don't really have much more to say. So just checking really, do you have any questions? So I go back over to the Q&A now. So I think there's a chat on here, but also there is a Q&A. So I see, yeah. So will the year 10 mock in February be for numeracy or maths? I am not sure. You will have to find that out with the maths department. When do the children year 10 get their timetable? I've seen a draft of that. So that will be coming very, very soon, I would have thought. It's still in draft stage and everybody checking what happens which days, and make sure nothing is clashing. My daughter brought home a mock timetable to year 10, which states the mock start on the 6th of Feb. Is this correct, as it does not leave much time to revise? If that's what it says on the letter, then that's what it says on the letter. Yeah, so I'll just open now the, hang on, the school calendar. You had all these dates before Christmas in the blog. The dates for the year have all been published. So if I just go to the calendar, year 10 oral exams this week, English this week, year 11 English orals this week. Next week are year 11 Welsh orals. And then the following week, which is the 6th of February, year 10 mocks start, and they go on for a week. And then just to check, year 8 parents' evening is this week on Thursday. Year 11 is next week, so that's Thursday the 2nd, parents' evening. And then the year 12 and 13 parents' evening is on Thursday, the 16th of Feb. So that's the Thursday night before. There's an inset day on the last day of this half term. As you know, the date has also been in the blog. So Friday the 17th of February, the last day before February half term, is inset. And then the night before that, year 12 and 13 parents' evenings. Yeah, so as I said, you know, there are lots of things. So year 11 science coursework was last week. English orals for year 11 this week, all week, different sets on different days, because we can only release so many teachers per day. Year 11 Welsh group orals next week, Monday the 30th onwards, and then the year 10 internal mocks happen then. Then, as I said, half term, and then after half term, the first Thursday after half term is the year 7 parents' evening, and the second Thursday is, from what I can see in the school calendar here, is the year 9 options evenings. In the meantime, we've got strikes. Mr. Pritchard has been in meetings with the county all day today, working out how schools are going to be dealing with the strikes, because in secondary school it is quite complicated, because everybody is members of different unions and only one union is going on strike, and there are particular rules for schools as to what the teachers who are not striking are allowed and not allowed to do. So he's been in meetings with the county today. We are having a senior management meeting tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock to discuss what was said today, and then we will make a decision tomorrow morning of what the plan is, and I will let you know then. You will probably get a blog tomorrow with the arrangement if about the strike, which is due to happen on, the first one is on Wednesday the 1st of February, which is Wednesday next week. So we have to give you a week's notice, and the county have been discussing today, and then you will have a decision tomorrow. You probably won't find out until the evening, because I am in a meeting in Swansea between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. I'll get the information out to you as soon as I can. So I hope that clears up. Yes, there is. So there are mocks for year 10 on the 6th of February. Will past paper exam questions be provided for the pupils? Yes, they will have revision packs in various subjects. I'm not sure if they will have every paper. Some papers are also available on the WJC website. Oes yna copy o'r amserlen mock ar class chart? Is there an example? Is there a copy of the mock timetable on class charts? I'm not sure, because I haven't checked yet. I've been in meetings all afternoon, and I have then come straight to here. So I would need to check that. You can have a look on class charts yourself. I'm sure you'll be able to see. Where can you find the syllabus in the Welsh subjects? I'm not quite sure what that question is asking. So the syllabus for Welsh and Welsh literature, is that what you're asking? Or is it for subjects through the medium of Welsh? So all our exams are carried out and administered by the exam board called WJEC. Their headquarters are on Western Avenue by the big Tesco's. So if you go to the WJEC website, you will be able to search for subjects there. Then you can click on GCSE, A level or AS level, and then you can see all the information there. And then, yeah, so, and also the exam timetables for the summer are also on there by now. So your child can see when they start and finish exams. So the GCSE exams start, I'm back on the school calendar, but you know this, I think, because I think I did put it in the blog. So the 1st of May is a bank holiday. The 8th of May is another bank holiday for the coronation. The first GCSE exam is on Friday, the 12th of May. The first AS exam, if you're in year 12, is on Monday, the 15th. So on the 12th, Friday the 12th, it's Welsh language that day. So everybody in year 11 will be sitting that. And then the AS exams will depend on what subject combinations you take. And that first exam is on the 15th. And then the A levels will be slightly later. Right, next question. Is there a way to access previous example exams for my daughter to be able to revise the questions and the different wording that they use? Yeah, so there are previous exam papers on the WJC website. Also, the teachers will be using past papers with them in lessons. But, you know, if a question has come up last year, the chances are it's not going to come up this year, because obviously they do mix the questions up. So I'm not sure, hopefully you heard about the syllabus and the WJEC website. It's wjec.co.uk. You can find loads of information there. Where can we find a list of topics and subtopics for each subject to make sure nothing gets missed? So those are all in the specs on the WJC website, but also pupils should have a revision list from their departmental teachers. When will the revision session start again for year 11? So Mr. Voyle is on the case with this. I have also seen a draft of this. I'm not sure when they're starting again. I don't have a year 11 class this year. I have year 10, but I know that those are going to be starting soon with various subjects after school. Right, and then to crown it off, the question is, what is the blog? The blog is the thing that takes over my life, and I spend half my life writing. I put the link to the blog in the chat for you now. So the blog is how we communicate with parents, and it includes all the dates, all the information, all the latest from the school. And the last one was just before Christmas, and that contains all the dates for next year and all the arrangements for exams. I've been writing them since, I don't know, a long time now. So I'm really pleased somebody's asked that, and hopefully you'll really enjoy. There's also make an announcement, right? I can make an announcement here, link. So that's the link to the blog. So you can reach that in the Q&A. Where are we? Yeah, so the blog contains everything you need to know, really. Also, the English language blog, there is a podcast version of it. There's a link on the top of the blog, and you can listen to it on Spotify. You can listen to it in the car, or whatever. Somebody has to leave, that's no problem. And there, where is the blog? Right, I have sent that link through. So in the Q&A link, so on class charts, the links to the latest blogs are sent out on class charts, and until recently you've been having them as text messages, but as we'd explained in the blog, we are no longer sending text messages at school, because we've decided to finance class charts, which is very expensive, and then not pay for the texts anymore. So if you're logged out of class charts, it's really important that you contact the head of year in school, which and they'll be able to give you the code again to log into class charts. All the announcements come on class charts, including the links to the blog. Some of you may be members of the what's it called? Rhieni Broedern Parents group on Facebook, which is, well, it keeps me busy, put it like that. And I know, some people enjoy the instant, nature of that. I don't really enjoy the instant nature of that because I don't really want to answer questions at 11 o'clock at night. But, I am in there and I am able to answer all sorts of things. And also parents help each other out on that. Yeah, so if you don't know what the blog is, I suggest that you get a hold of your class charts code. Your child also has a class charts code. And then the links to the blog would be in there, and all the news from school, which can contain really important things. And then, yeah, the update for the strike will be on the blog, and I've just published the link there in the Q&A so that you can see then the blog, and then you click on Christmas 2022, which was the last one, and then there are previous ones, then you can go through them all. They're really great fun to read. Yeah, so I don't think I got any more questions I haven't answered. Okay, fine. So if there are any more questions, I'll hang around for a few minutes. But if not, I will finish now. I've got nothing more to tell you. I've run out of energy for the evening. But thank you very, very much for joining us. Really appreciate your support as parents. It is crucial to our success as a school that we have parental support. So thank you very much for turning out as a mass this evening. There's so many of you online. That's brilliant. As I said, I'm still here to answer any questions. You can stay online if you want, but please leave, go and have supper. I need to go home and feed my family. So diolch yn fawr iawn am ymuno gyda ni. Flin bod chi wedi colli'r sesiwn Gymraeg, ond gobeithio bod chi wedi deall fy Saesneg. So diolch yn fawr. So please leave now, go and have your supper, enjoy the rest of your evening. I hope that you found it useful, and obviously get in touch with head of year. So Miss Yap, year 10. Mr. Voyle is the interim head of year in year 11 in Mrs. Loader's absence because she is off school long term. She is unwell. Year 12 and 13, Miss Land is the head of sixth form, and also Mr. Alan Evans, biology, is the deputy head of sixth form there, and obviously Miss Lindsay Lewis is also our learning coach in the sixth form. All these people are available to help you, to give you advice, and obviously to help your child. Okie dokie. Mae rhywun yn gweud diolch yn fawr, thank you. Yeah, so diolch yn fawr i chi am ymuno gyda ni. Fel wedais i, chi'n gallu mynd nawr, please ewch i gael eich swper. Thank you very much to everyone for joining us, and hopefully see you soon. As I said, the parents' evening coming up, year 8 this week, Thursday night. And in the parents' evenings now, we have a presentation in the hall, which should be really useful. Year 10's parents had a presentation in the hall last week about the exams. Year 8 this week. There also is a swap shop now. The cyfeillion arrange a swap shop in the sports hall, so you can pick up uniform for much cheaper than YC Sports. And also there'll be a cup of tea, cup of coffee also available in the sports hall as well. So we're trying to make it, as comprehensive as possible to hit as many elements of the work as possible. So diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much for joining us. There are still loads of you online, so yes, please go, and as there are now no more questions, just people saying, yeah, diolch yn fawr. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Really important that we have parental support, and we are obviously here to support you every way we can. So diolch yn fawr iawn. I am going to now end the call, and hopefully we will see you soon. Okay, hwyl fawr, nos da.